It's a pleasure to welcome you to this candidate forum for Lee College. My name is Bill Holda. I was a 40-year employee at Kilgore College, and 20 of those years I was president of Kilgore College. And since I have retired in 2016, I've been doing presidential searches and board workshops and retreats and board training. And I had the privilege 2 years ago of doing the presidential search here for Lee College. And I was asked to be here to help moderate this forum this evening, since I am a neutral person, not directly affiliated with the college or the community, but I am familiar with the institution. So it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here with you. The purpose of the forum tonight is not to engage in a long, in-depth discussion, but rather this is an opportunity for these candidates to introduce themselves to you, the voters, or to reintroduce themselves to you as you finish this period of early voting and leading up to the election day next week. I understand, I really do, that 1 hour that we have is very brief, and so we're going to try to make the most of that hour that we have. To that extent, we have a few ground rules that we're going to try to follow for all of the candidates. One of those is that answers to the questions are limited to 3 minutes. When there is 1 minute left, an individual will call out and say, "A minute left," and when time is up, they'll call time. And then we'll try to give you a second or two to finish your sentence. And then I will announce that we are moving to the next candidate. So if we do cut you off, your audio or your video, please understand we're not trying to be rude or disrespectful. We're trying to cover 4 to 5 questions in this hour for each of the candidates. There will be a slight delay as we move from candidate to candidate because the next candidate has to enable their video and their audio. And so there probably will be 15, 20 seconds as we transition from candidate to candidate. The other thing I want to tell all of the candidates is I hope to give you time at the end for a closing statement. So if some of the questions that have been submitted are such that you didn't get a question you wanted submitted, we'll let you bundle whatever statements you need to make into your closing arguments, your closing statement. We realize that we likely will not get to all the questions that you, the public, might submit. So if the candidates are agreeable, I would propose that the staff here assemble those questions, submit them to the 4 candidates who are here this evening in written form, and possibly work with the Baytown Sun to publish those answers before Election Day so that all of you can get your questions answered, even if there were not time this evening. One thing I would like to caution you on is this is not an evening to engage in personal attacks or naming individuals. It's certainly okay to disagree with an answer that you hear, and you can disagree with an answer without being disagreeable toward a person. So regarding the order in which the questions will be asked, since Mr. Isaac is the sole challenger here and the other 3 participants are sitting regents, I would like to extend to him the courtesy and the privilege of going first. And I do that out of respect for him being the challenger. So with that being said, I will let our technical person make sure that Mr. Isaac is connected, and I'll begin with the first question.
He is connected.
Welcome, Mr. Isaac. Good to see you.
Thank you, Bill.
So,
See you too.
so here's the first question. What is going well at college? If you are elected to a 6-year term, what current activity, initiatives, practice do you support and want to continue? Were you able to hear that?
Can you repeat the last part?
Yes. So what current activities, initiatives,
initiatives,
practices would you
would you
support and want
support
to
and
see
want to see
continue?
continue?
Sounds like I'm having some connectivity issues, but if you can hear me, I'd like to go.
We can hear you
We can
fine.
hear you fine.
Very well. Sounds like you asked me about what's going well at the college. Before I answer, I just want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank Mr. Holder for taking time out of his schedule to be here, and I want to thank the other folks on the ballot for making their time available to the people. To answer your question, I really think that the progress that's starting with addressing mental health on campus is a really positive attribute of the college right now. From what I understand, they have elevated the part-time mental health person on campus to a full-time position. And that's very important right now. Baytown Police is expected to be social workers, emergency workers, and all kinds of other jobs that aren't really listed in their job description. The college should play a role, should be at the forefront of addressing some of these things that equate to equity here in the town and their people. So I think that's a program that's going really well. I also think the growth of their food bank is going really well as well. And making that more inclusive, making that strong, making that sustainable is a really good thing for the equity in the city and for the people. Thank you.
Very good. Thank
Very
you,
good. Thank
Ms. Regent. Now we will
Now
go
we will
to
go to
Regent
Regent
Cotton.
Cotton.
Good afternoon.
So Regent
So, Regent
Cotton,
Cotton,
were you able to hear
were
the
you able to
question?
hear the question?
Yes, sir, I was, and I'm getting some feedback. It sounds like somebody has the YouTube video, YouTube on, and it's feeding back. It's duplicating. I didn't hear that statement.
We can hear you fine now, and
Okay.
it's not feeding
Well,
back.
That's great. I too would like to show my appreciation for everybody that has had a hand in doing this. And of course, when we're talking about Lee College, it seems like there's so many things that are going well at Lee College. Just look at our national rankings, look at the awards that we've gotten, the kudos from the national organizations. It seems to be working well because I believe that starting at the top with the board, setting their policies and goals and letting the administrators, the staff, the educators work their magic without any direct interference or manipulation from the board. Our board works well because we all have differing backgrounds and we have different priorities, and we're able to work through those priorities without them turning into an agenda. We're usually willing to work together for the good of the college, the students, the staff, the educators, and the community. We have a lot of people that we serve, not just the school, not just the educators, and certainly not the administration and the staff, but the community also, and the industries in our communities. We're doing a good job of preparing students for college or direct entry into the workforce. We're giving them the opportunities to develop themselves. We've been able to maintain our enrollment. We've used creative ways to use the money that we have and the funds available to us. It all works because we're willing to work together. And I think that's what's good going on. We have so much good going at the college, but I believe that it starts with the board, and the board allowing those who actually do the day-to-day job, allowing them to do that without interference. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Cotton. And now we'll go to Regent Mark Hall.
Okay. And I had also had a hard time hearing the question, but if you were asking can you repeat that?
What's going well? What activities, initiatives, practices do you support? And if you're elected to a 6-year term that you'd like to see continued?
Okay. Being on the board, one of the bright spots that I see is the spirit of cooperation and collaboration that we now enjoy working together with the Lee College family. as we develop policies and look towards the future. One of the things that gives us flexibility is our financial situation, which is better now than it has been in the entire history of the college. And I also want to say that we have excellent leadership and administrative leadership and a motivated faculty. And these are some things that help to give the college a bright future, as I see. I think we have a tremendous opportunity for growth, not only in our immediate area, but in the outlying areas as we begin to develop additional programs to reach out into our larger service areas and these communities that have not been served as well as maybe the Baytown community. And so some of those things, you ask what's going right at Lee College, I think it's cooperation, communication, collaboration, and it allows the administration to really explore how they can move the college forward and begin to serve a broader student base.
Good, thank you, Regent Hall. And now we'll move to Regent Himpsel for the same question.
Well, thank you, Dr. Holder. It's good to see you again, and I appreciate you being here this evening. And I want to echo my two fellow regents on their statements. I agree wholeheartedly with what they have said. I have served on this board for almost 19 years, and this board has become one of the most cohesive teams that I've ever served with, and I really want to see that continue. Even though we've had some tough challenges, this board has worked together very well. We've hired a new president, and then we experienced the pandemic, and we've instituted virtual learning, and the current board continues to lead this institution to grow stronger than ever before. The growth of Lee College over the past few years, compared to other community colleges across the country, has been phenomenal. And we owe that to our administration, our staff, and our students as well. I want to continue to make sure that all students in our service area are given whatever opportunities needed to become successful. We have a strong administration and faculty who have led this college to be highly recognized throughout in the United States. So I want to be sure we continue offering them the best salary and the finest benefits package. I also don't want to forget the people that elect me, the taxpayers. They carry a heavy tax rate. So I want to advocate lowering the tax rate each year. As our service area increases and the college becomes financially stronger, then we need to relieve some of that burden. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Himpsel. And while we're reconnecting now with Mr. Isaac, let me just first of all say to all four of you candidates, I commend you for not only staying on point and answering the question, but doing it where nobody had to be called for time or we had to cut you off. So you deserve some credit right from the get-go for staying focused and staying on the question. And as soon as we get Mr. Isaac reconnected here, we will ask him the next question.
How's that for you, Mr. Holda?
Hey, you guys are good. So here's the flip side of that first question. So rather than me ask what's not going well, I'm going to ask it this way. What are some changes, improvements, initiatives you would like to see at Lee College in the next 6 years if you're elected?
Well, for starters, I would like to contend that me having to speak first and having 3 incumbents follow up is going to be quite a lofty goal, but I'm looking forward to the challenge.
You're up to it.
All right. Well, for starters, regarding the budgetary process, I did hear one regent mention that they would like to lower the tax rate. They're talking a lot about cooperation and collaboration. That sounds like a very first thing we can get started on is lowering taxes. People out here are dying. There's a global pandemic. Offering a tax break, as long as it doesn't affect the students in a negative way, as long as it doesn't affect our faculty in a negative way, I believe that a tax rate should be proposed on day one. With that being said, we gave a lot of praise tonight for our faculty and staff, who I've also collaborated with over the years. I've also surveyed the campus in recent times and have found out some organizational issues that could work. Six Sigma is a tool that's used to make organizations run better. I've learned a lot of different types of ways to enhance how organizations run. It seems right now that there's a lot of tight coupling, loose coupling in places that don't need to be, and we can break those things apart. For instance, we're hiring a director of public affairs and marketing. Those are two things that could be separate. The way that we lobby government and the way that we lobby our community are two very different, distinct things. And I think our board should be able to play a role in that. If we're going to give credit for our teachers and give credit to our students, then let's give them more of our funds. Let's give them more room to ideate some of their ideals, validate them, build them, and give them as much sovereignty as possible. We have no student government. I would like to see that on day one. There's no student government during a global pandemic. Now more than ever is when they need sovereignty, and just so much to start with when it comes to student sovereignty. Only 4% of the budget goes to them. 10% of our budget is going to debt. If we want to flex our muscle about the fiscal adequacy of the school, then we need to flex our muscle about investing in our people directly. I'm glad that the Regents have spoken about that tonight. That was part of my efforts during the last forum. I wish they had attended, and I'm glad to be here tonight to hear this more. So thank you so much. That's all I have to my answer.
Thank you, Mr. Isaac. I don't think you've put yourself at a disadvantage by going first, by the way. You seem to be doing just fine. We'll go on to Regent Weston Cotton. What would be some initiatives, changes, activities, things you would like to see occur during the next 6-year term?
One of the things that I would like to see is us go to the legislature and attempt to find some way to encourage our service area to help put them in our tax base. We have to serve them. Right now, our taxpayers are paying the lion's share of the cost. Even with out-of-district tuition, they still don't cover the complete cost of it. One of the things that I've noticed is that we're starting to catch up with our physical plant. We're beginning to do maintenance. We're setting up maintenance schedules. We have to shepherd the dollars that we use. And one of those ways is to set up a good maintenance schedule so that we can maintain the plant we've got so we don't have to build new buildings. I would like to see a way that we can reach out. Our district service area is a very long area. And it's difficult for some of the students to get to us, and I understand that. I would like for us to be able to find a way for them to be able to come on campus, to have a campus life. Right now, with everybody coming virtually, it's more simple for them to use the computer, to be able to stay at home, to be able to get to school, but they miss a lot. They miss the opportunity to gather and collaborate with other people, to share ideas. It's just not the same on a computer. Those of us who've been around before computers understand that. People with computers and iPhones now, they'll sit at the same table and text and converse. We like to see people get together and to use their skills, to develop interpersonal skills. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Regent Cotton. Appreciate your answer and your brevity. And now we'll move to Regent Hall as to what innovations, changes, activities he would like to see during his tenure.
Okay. This is the time to break out the crystal ball. Because in order for us to plan or what initiatives we would like to see take place, we have to predict or begin to imagine what things are going to look like for the next 25 to 50 years. And that's what we have been talking about for the last few years. I've been talking about for the last 5 or 6 years. What
I can't hear
is
what
our area going to look
Yeah.
like? And then how do we begin to position ourselves to meet the needs that are coming our way? We have huge developments. The character, the size, the identity of Lee College is going to change very radically, I think, over the next 5, 10, 15 years. We're at that pivot point in our history. And so what I see is the challenge of trying to imagine and to pinpoint what our service area is going to look like, our responsibilities to meeting education in that service areas, and then what we have to do to have facilities or capabilities in those areas to meet the needs. And that's a very broad responsibility, and it takes collaboration with everybody. But it's more than just buildings. It's also working with local school districts, local developers. It's a whole host of things to begin to put together planning for what we're going to be, what we need to be, and what we're going to look like. It also involves partnering with some of our outside areas, as Weston mentioned, as far as spreading the tax burden. Currently, Goose Creek Consolidated pays all of the property taxes, which pays about 50% of our budget. And yet we serve much larger area than Goose Creek. And so we need to figure out how to go into these other areas and convince them to partner with us so that Lee College can provide the level of community college education that they need to move into the future.
Good. Thank you, Regent Paul.
If I've got another 30 seconds or so, I failed to mention, I just wanted to thank you for coming down and hosting this, and the faculty and assemblies and the administrative assembly for doing this forum, coming up with the idea and taking the time to put it together. And so I want to thank you and welcome you back to Baytown.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good to be back. Okay, we'll transition to Regent Himsel and give him that same opportunity to answer this second question.
Just remote at the college during your tenure. So I would say, change is sometimes good. However, sometimes an adjustment may be better than change. I would like to see us adjust our offerings to be more in line with the needs of our workforce in our service area. We have a huge workforce of employers out there, and I want to be sure that we are adjusting to meet those needs. I would like to see the college become an even stronger partner with our school districts to ensure high school students do not slip through the cracks and they get the opportunity and the guidance they need to attend a local college of their choice. We have partnered with local school districts for dual credit, free tuition, and other programs to enhance student success. And I would not want to see any changes in that. I would like to see us continue and adjusting that to even greater help for those students. Then also we need to make sure we offer physical and financial assistance to them along the way. There's lots of needs out there with some of these students, and we need to be sure that those kids that sometimes need even food or water or housing, we're able to help them. And I guess if there's one thing that I could change, I would like to cancel all the racial tension and get back to the basics of teaching and learning and preparing all of our students for future success. And I think if we did that, we could increase the success rate for all students in our area. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So while we are transitioning back to Mr. Isaac, I will start that question and hope he can hear it, and I'll repeat it if I need to. When you look at all the statutory duties of an elected community college board member, which of those duties do you think are most important? So the question David, is which duties of the board responsibilities do you think are most important?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. I think the number one thing is to have an open door policy. Some of the policies I'm hearing tonight and touts that I'm hearing tonight are for the first time, because much of it's ideated in closed door meetings and executive sessions. We've talked about changes on campus, but the people that are running as incumbents right now have been in power for a very long time. And if there's racial tensions on campus, I'm one of the people I believe who can work with that. As far as healing those things, there was an opportunity at one point where the Black Students Leadership tried to hijack a meeting. And I remember standing there, deontologically, the duty ethics within me that this town built, that's the reason why I was able to make these relationships with these teachers, these students, all over campus. And as a board member, it is good to embrace the diversity that we're discussing tonight. It's good to embrace the teachers' wages, because from what I hear from them, their voices alone, the courage that they had to call me and let me know that they need more help. They need the board to listen to them. That's one of the most important things, I believe, as a board member. So that's a really good question to ask. And when it comes to our tax dollars, that person needs to be a real good hawk about the budgetary process and how it does affect all people. Because we've been waiting 20, 30 years to see change around this area where I live. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. We'll move to Regent Weston Cotton. And that same question, Regent Cotton, is of the various statutory responsibilities, duties that board members carry. Which of those do you think are most important or significant?
Well, most of our duties are to direct policy and to hire a president. And everything revolves around that. We don't talk to the staff. We don't talk to the faculty. They have a chain of command that they have to work through before they ever get to us. But I think probably in the last couple of years, it's come home to me that one of our most important duties is to hire the president. I've only been through two, and I've talked to the other regents about the many presidents that they've had. And picking a president is one of the most important things you can do, because they set the tone for the years to come as long as they're there. And I believe that is probably the most important thing that we can do. The next thing is, in setting policies, we have to weigh all of the stakeholders' positions in that, and then make a policy that serves the greater good for all the people. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Regent Cotton. And Regent Hall, if you could answer the same question about what you see as the most significant or important statutory duties of an elected community college board member.
Okay, and I just caught the statutory part of that. The most important duty that we have is to jokingly say hire and fire the president. That is our I would say our number one responsibility, but we're also responsible for overseeing the finances of the college and overseeing the policy development and make sure that that policy is followed. And so there's some oversight responsibilities as well. And not necessarily statutory, but I think very important is that we work. Sometimes we talk about flying at 35,000 feet, is to help develop a vision. That's our job. We come from the community. We hire presidents many times from outside the community, but we're the contact with that community. And so we know our areas, and it's our job to help develop that vision and then help the president implement that and administer it. And that's their responsibility. Some of the details are turned over, all the details as far as implementation are concerned are turned over to the president. And we're there for advice and counseling. But those aren't necessarily statutory, but they're very, very important. So just to recap, the president, hiring and firing the president. Hopefully we never have to fire one. We have an excellent president right now, and we are working very, very well together, and we're excited about what the future holds. And then, of course, the finances and policy, those are the key elements of what our responsibilities are.
Thank you, Regent Hall. Moving on to Regent Himpsel, the most important duties that you see, um, statutory duties of an elected board member.
Thank you, Bill. And again, I want to tell you that I agree wholeheartedly with the two regents that just spoke and exactly everything that they say. The board is made up of 9 individuals, but we must always act as a cohesive unit. I think developing a budget that meets the needs of our administration and secures a future for continued student success is always a priority, maybe number one. But most importantly, we have been fortunate to hire a impactful president, and it's the board's responsibility to support the president in keeping that momentum going forward that we have seen this past year, and we're all so very excited about that. And it's strange that you asked this question because I've been thinking about this for our upcoming board retreat today, and I've actually, or tomorrow, and I've actually been thinking of kind of the opposite, and I'll share those because I believe a board member is not to be involved in the daily activities of the college. A board member has zero authority to make any individual decision or make a request of the president or direct any employee of the college to do anything. A board member should not be allowed in regular discussions with college employees that undermines the president. A board member should not be directing the president to promote his or her own agenda. Board members should not be on campus on a regular basis. And if they are, they should be with the president or let him or her know what they're doing there. It's a courtesy that we owe the president. A board member should immediately inform the president of discussions with employees, allow them to handle the issue or concerns with that employee. And a board member should know that employees are expected to inform the president
1 minute.
when they have been, been talked to. A board member should also be respectful of other board members and the president. Always abide by the rule of no surprises. If you've got an issue, it's your responsibility to talk to the president ahead of time. I know that's a little off topic, Bill, but these are things that a board member should know and should always be respectful of. And I just wanted to say that it kind of fit in with the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Himpsel. So this next question that was submitted sort of keys off some of that discussion. One of the scenarios is board members do have a responsibility to serve as a bridge between the community and the college. And so how do you handle a situation where an employee of the college brings you a grievance, asks you to handle it, or you have an area of some expertise and you don't feel like your expertise is being used, or you as a board member disagree with a policy or a procedure that the full board has agreed to. So how do you, as a board member, handle that individuality, those challenges of being connected with the faculty and staff, and at the same time separating that policy governance role from the administrative function that administration fulfills? That's a fairly complicated question, but it does key off some of that discussion that all of you touched on in that previous answer.
Let's see. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Yes, that is a fairly complicated question, but I'll try to answer it. I approached the board before in the form of Citizen Isaac as a citizen and not a candidate on several occasions. The March 2015 meeting is an important audio recording. April 2017 meeting is an important audio recording. And last Thursday, people's voices on campus need to be heard. That includes the instructors. They're very much a part of our community. It's an incentive for them to also be a part of our community when they get good raises, when they get good job offers to stick around. Some of you guys play football. You ever sign a player? They want to stick around on a 3-year term. And they want to talk about getting a raise and stuff like that with the cohesive unit. But you have to ideate those things. And in order to validate and build on those ideas, everyone has to have a seat at the table. If you're the same people at the same time, then that's called the definition of insanity. The daily activities of what takes place at Lee College is very important for the board to know and be in the know. This is how the board never knew that there was no student government and that there is no at-large elections for student government. I think vehemently the law should change where 6-year terms shouldn't be on the ballot where 3 people can run together like this. This is how structural issues exist in towns like these throughout the South of Texas. When it comes to hiring a president, all of the community should be involved, not just the board. It's not the most important job to me. I think that when I served as the student body president on the presidential search committee and we chose Dr. Brown for that intermediate term, there was only 2 regents, Mr. Wayne Gray and Don Coffey. Donna Gare, CEO of San Jacinto Hospital, and other folks in the communities were involved in that meeting. That's how it should take place. That's putting the community back in community college. In order for the college to run right, we have to have various ways for people to get their voices out. There is no student newspaper right now, and there hasn't been allowed to be one for a very long time. Students aren't able to relate their own media. Maybe one of the reasons why they're sitting around texting each other because they don't have much to do. We can't wait until now, just now, to decide to give the students more room, since we've cut their space by over 75% over the last decade. So I hope that answers your question. When it comes to working as a cohesive unit, when it comes to ideating these things, I understand that I would be running, that I would have to govern with 8 other people. That's why I've studied organizational policy and have a certificate of leadership in the public sector from University of Houston Clear Lake with people I very much respect. And I hope that if these guys are to serve again, they do make themselves available to the rest of us in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Isaac. Regent Cotton, that same scenario of how you handle faculty member coming, wanting you to sort of intervene on a grievance, and or how you provide that bridge between the community and the college without deviating from that policy role.
Well, one of the first things, and I guess I spent a long time on the Goose Creek School Board, and so I taught in the Goose Creek School. So I knew a lot of these people that were coming to me, and I had to separate the friendship from the job because my job was not to listen to their grievance. Eventually, my job would be to decide the grievance if it got to the board. So I told them, I understand that you have a problem. I can't listen to it, or I can't be on the board that decides the final result. You have to take it through your chain of command. I will try everything that I can to help, but my position on the board keeps me from listening too much to what you have to say, or I would have to recuse myself from that. But you've got to do it in a nice way. They've got to understand that you're not putting them off. You're giving them the trail and the direction to follow to get to what they want. As far as the community goes, the many positions that I have in various and sundry organizations in the community puts me in contact with community leaders and just the ordinary citizens. And so I get an earful every day, every week. And I try to bring that to our meetings to say what's coming from the community so that we can get together. That's one of the biggest things that we try to do on the board is to, number one, listen to each and every one of us, whether we agree or disagree. But once that vote's taken, we try to be a united front. That is what the board decided. I may not like it, but I've got to support the board decision, or I need to get off the board and then go fight it if I'm not that happy. But we have managed to do that so far. We've had some disagreements on the board, and we have managed to put those disagreements aside, support the decision of the board, and move forward. And one of the things that I have learned that usually the collective knowledge and wisdom is better than my single individual knowledge. So I have had to bow my head, bite my tongue, and listen to the other members on the board. And when we make our decision, I back it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Regent Cotton. Regent Hall, and if you need me, either one of you coming up, need me to repeat the question, I will. But if not, I'll let you go ahead and just begin the answer.
I think I can take a stab at this. First of all, the only employee that works for the board, and that is the 9 of us, is the president. And so that's the only person that we can go to. We do not involve ourselves with anybody below the president. And if we do that with the president's permission or direction sometimes for certain issues. And sometimes we have conversations, but the president has to be included in any communication that we have with the college, because that's the only employee that works for us. And when I say works for us, the president works for the entire board of 9. Individually, we do not have any authority. We cannot go individually and tell the president what to do or direct her to take, or him to take, any particular actions. And so you have to begin to understand what a board of regents is. We're a collective unit. In fact, we're called a governing board or governing body, and that's for a purpose. Weston Cotton just alluded to it, that we work in decision making by hearing all sides of an argument. And when you have that type of a decision making process, you can't come in with agendas or your mind made up when issues are there in front, for the board to decide. You have to be willing and able to listen to the other board members and gain knowledge, and sometimes reshape what your thoughts are, and allow the board to come to a collective decision. And then once that decision is made, we have the responsibility to support it. And even when we may have disagreed with it, from that point on, we have a responsibility as a board member to support it, because we have a responsibility to the institution. And sometimes we wear multiple hats. Sometimes we wear a hat as a representative of the people who elected us. They may want their taxes lowered, or they may want this, that service. But the other hat we wear is a representative of the institution. And we have to set our personal agendas aside many times when we're wearing that hat. We have to be careful about what we say and what we do. And there is a governing board over us that even monitors what we do. It's very improper for a regent to go in, say, to a classroom and observe a teacher and offer criticism or comments. And if I got 1 minute, and so we have to understand what our responsibilities are as board members, and it's not getting into the details of how the college is run, but it's the larger vision responsibility, and then turning the administration and implementation of that vision over to the president and her team, or his team. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Hall. Regent Himsel, the same question, please.
If approached by faculty or staff to advocate on their behalf or for a particular agenda or initiative. So that may be the most important and practical question yet. Board members need to be very aware that the president runs the college, and its day-to-day management decisions, whether dealing with or regarding faculty, students, programs, recognitions, problems, advertising, whatever it is. The chain of command is there for a reason, so that equity is maintained for all. As a board member, I'm certainly interested in advocating for Lee College. And sometimes we may hear from faculty and staff, but we should never promote that conversation. We should refer to the president, communicate any problems or situations we're aware of with him or her and or administration if needed. We can always be friendly. We can talk. We can answer questions when we can, but we should never get involved in the day-to-day management of this college. And I'm so concerned that this election could change what we've built and developed. And I'll just say that I hope that we can continue doing what the way we've been going at this. And it's the president's job to handle the faculty and the staff and answer their questions and deal with their concerns. It's not the role of any board member.
Thank you, Regent Himsel. This next question was submitted in the early part of the forum, and I'm going to try to represent it. The way the question was worded was, please describe the relationship between curricular innovation and the decision to eliminate 3-year contracts and replace them with 1-year contracts. And the context there is in 2019, there were changes in contract length that the board approved. And the question really asked, when you lower the contract length for, in particular, some instructional staff, does that have a negative effect on curricular innovation? Is there a relationship between those contract lengths and what you expect of the teachers?
Thank you, Dr. Holder. Yes, that's a great question. When we pick who our teachers are, when we make those decisions, the board makes those affirmations. We have the capabilities of hiring the best if we are to create the magnet to bring them here. If we don't have the programs offered that bring the brightest and the best, if we don't have the salary packages available that brings the brightest and the best, then they simply will not come. In the current climate of the job market, we're gonna need a fight for the best that are yet to come. Some of them come here from Lee College. Some of them come from our own community. Some of them, as a community member, may want to approach the board. They might be a teacher, but they also might be a registered voter. They also might be a taxpayer. I suppose, based on this conversation we're having, that I'd have to be that transformational leader that fights for the faculty, that fights for the staff, that don't have the budget that they want in certain departments, that don't have the support or the ear from the board. I know many faculty and staff members who have not met the current president in person. I know many people who weren't a part of the valuation process of the president. So I think we need to change the way that we govern, and putting the community back in community college is going to require us getting the best by offering them those 3-year deals, if that seat is worth it. We have plenty of room in the budget. If we're touting success in our budget, if we're touting our successes financially, then we've got money for our teachers, right? We've got the funds to back them. So I think we should change the way. There is no direct link for students to communicate with the president. There used to be in 2011. It's called the Student Leadership Council. And currently there's no student government right now. So how do teachers expect to get the type of support from the board if they don't have an activated student government presence, student leader presence that's voted at large? How are teachers going to want to come if they don't have 3-year options at least offered to them? When you go out to eat to McDonald's, you have options. You got the number 3 or the number 4. So I think since we've changed that policy, it's lowered. You just saw an article in the Baytown Sun the other day. We hired a not so cool executive. who's locked up right now. And that's probably because we're not bringing the best by offering them the salary they need and giving them the raises when they need. We can't just start talking about raises now. We got to talk about raises all the time and giving them the infrastructure they need to innovate from here on out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Isaac. Regent Cotton.
Okay, there I am. The question about moving from the 3-year continuing contract was something that I kind of fought with or had a long, hard talk with myself about. The 1-year contracts, as it was described, made sense at the time. Does it curtail innovation in curriculum? I don't know. I would think not. I know it would make the teachers feel a little unsettled, but the good teachers know that they're going to be around, that we're going to keep them. We're going to do everything that we can for them, give them the salaries, give them the benefits, give them the tools that they need. Very few people other than in academics have continuing contracts or more multi-year contracts. Most contracts are not contracts. They're at will. You work as long as your employer is happy with you, and when you're not, you're gone. Education built something in, an expectation that they would be there longer, and I understand that. But having taught, I never figured that they would keep me past my useful life, or if I got to the point to where I was not doing my job, they would find a way to get rid of me. And that's why I kept trying to do better every day, every year. And the good teachers do that. I wish there was a good balance between contracts, salaries, and everything else. But I still believe that the good instructors will do their jobs, and they will take whatever constructive criticism comes, if it is, or they will take the praise of their students and continue to do better. I have not seen, since we went to 1-year contracts, I haven't seen or heard many of the instructors or any of the instructors. I haven't been contacted and saying, you know, why did you do the 1-year contract? I'm leaving. We haven't seen an exodus of employees. So I guess I leave it to human nature and to the good teachers, the ones that want to be good educators, to continue to do a good job. And their job will never be in jeopardy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Regent Cotton. Regent Hall, the same opportunity to respond.
That was an interesting question for the board, and we studied that for several years. We found that Lee College in multi-year contracts, 3 years for faculty, and we had also 3 years for administrators that we changed a year before that, I believe. We were the outlier. Most community colleges did not have that employment length built in. And we looked at a tremendous amount of data, and we looked back and we had not dismissed any teachers, or, you know, we hadn't really had an issue with that. We have not, to my knowledge, dismissed any faculty members because of performance or any of those types of related issues because of this. But let me say, one of the thoughts is the college has to have some flexibility. So you have a tension between the interests of the college in maintaining flexibility and the security of the faculty members, and what we need to do to maintain, you know, a good faculty and to make them comfortable to come here and that they're going to be welcomed. And I think Lee College has had a welcoming environment. I think Baytown is a great community. I think Lee College is a great place to teach. And as long as, you know, the performance is there, then we want you, you know, if I'm speaking to a faculty member, we want you to stay. And we're going to do everything in our power to keep you here with pay and any other benefits that the college can afford. But, you know, we've also, in the earlier few minutes ago, we were talking about budget constraints. And so there's a balancing act and there's tension between all of these. And we try to find the right place. And I think that we have found that place. I would also share, I'm not sure if this came from faculty or administration, but I think multi-year contracts, I will say this, it's more important to have flexibility at the administrative level. Nothing against you administrators, but you know, when a new president comes in, sometimes that new president needs to have some flexibility to bring their team. And I think Dr. Villanueva in the last year has assembled her team and she's had some flexibility. And I think the college is seeing the results of being able to reorganize and to organize and move forward. So,
Thank you, Regent Hall. Regent Himsel?
Thank you, Bill. And once again, my two compadres there have provided all the exact details on what happened. But I will say, Dr. Dennis Brown was at Lee College for over 10 years. And about 3 years ago, 3 years before he left, he brought that to the board as a recommendation. This came from a man that had been the president of the college for at that time, 8 or 9 years. And he felt like that is what we needed. It's what other colleges were doing. He provided us pages and pages of documentation and data to support his recommendation to the board that we lowered the contracts. We had weeks after week of discussion on the right way to do that. And we came to a decision. We took his recommendation. And so far as I know, it's worked very well. We've been able to, and we'll be able to use that as a tool to move out underperforming employees if needed. Hopefully, we won't have to do that, but it is a good tool. We do offer some of the top salaries in the state, and if the best, if not the best, benefits of any other college. We're right at the top. And so we want to stay there. And so if good quality faculty and staff and administration want to work at a high performing, high paying, high benefit college, then they can come to Lee College and they're welcome here and they can stay here. And we've had faculty and staff to stay here 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years. And so we're not looking to run anybody off. We want people to stay here and be very productive members of this society and the college. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. So before we sort of wrap up here, I want to just make a couple comments. There were a couple other questions that were submitted, and I apologize to those of you who submitted those because we just could not get to everything. I want to commend all 4 candidates for staying within the time frame, staying on point, answering the question, giving the voters a really good opportunity to see you. And I feel like even though we're right at 6:58, I feel like I owe it to all of you to give you a few minutes each to tell the voters who are listening tonight why they should vote for you. So I'm going to make an executive decision. This is one of those where forgiveness may be easier to get than permission. So I'm going to allow each of the candidates to make a closing statement within the same time frame and not worry about us running a little over. So candidate Isaac, you're first. And thank you this evening for your participation as well.
Certainly. So your executive decision, does that give us extra time?
3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Tell people why to vote for. Tell them why to vote for you in 3 minutes.
The reason why you should vote for me is because of what you heard tonight. You heard three folks speak in lockstep about the ideas, about the vision of the school. They run every 6 years. It's 2021. In 27, 33, 39, 45, 51, 57, if you do the math, they will never face a challenger during a presidential or even a midterm cycle. I'm asking the voters to vote for me based on what I represent. This city, this town, this school. As a graduate, as someone who's built programs with the budget the students were afforded when I was there, in this community, when I fought against the red light cameras, when I felt our liberties were at stake, and the life I lived when I traveled to Tokyo, Japan, and created a business for myself. I've come back, not only for myself or for my family, I've come back because a global pandemic shut down the live music industry. I've created nonprofits, Texans for Healthcare Access, Houston WNBA Holdings, the Baytown Moon Corporation. I've worked for nothing. Just like my grandfather taught me, with the faith that they've taught me at the church right across the street from the school for 30 years. I need people to vote for me because this town needs a difference maker, someone who was willing to work with the board if they're willing to listen and talk with. And it shouldn't only take a 1-hour conversation that we're having tonight to bring them out. We don't even know if we even would have had a forum tonight had someone not run and challenged them. So I want to thank Dr. Holder for his time. I want to thank people who are tuning in right now. Could be 5, could be 45, I don't know. Can't see you. But in terms of your value as a person, as a voter, as your worth, rest assured, I do see you. That goes for our teachers. That goes for our students. That goes for our taxpayers. You can go to voteforisaac.com. When I get it whipped up tonight and repay GoDaddy or whatever. But I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure to sit here with these guys and get their understanding at least. See you later.
Thank you so much, Mr. Isaac. I appreciate your participation. Regent Cotton, you get to make your sales pitch to the voters.
Well, I would hope by now I wouldn't have to make a sales pitch. Served on educational boards now 24 years and counting. But I think if the voters out there, the staff and everything, if they are happy with the way things are, they need to keep things the way they are. I believe that we've made good decisions. I think we've shown good leadership. We haven't done anything to destroy anything at the college. We've done nothing but help build it up, help move it forward, try to find ways to help everyone, students with books, students with food, students with housing. We're doing everything that we can within the confines of our budgetary requirements. I just believe that we have done a good job. We're good shepherds of our community's money. We're good people. And I would just ask the people to go out and vote your conscience. And if I'm not in your conscience, that's fine. I can take that too. But I would hope that I had done a good enough job to have the voters give me another 6 years. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Regent Cotton. Regent Hall, you get your time for your closing remarks.
First of all, it's been a pleasure serving on the Lee College board for the past 19 years or almost 19 years. It's kind of hard to boil all of this down into 3 minutes, but when I ran for the board 19 years ago, I didn't know every detail or a whole lot of the, the specific issues. I just ran on, I grew up here. I went to school here. When I got through with college, I came back here and started a business and served on committees in the community and was president of the Kiwanis Club and a whole host of activities, involvement in my church in virtually every level, I guess, but the pastor. And, those are the things that I had done at that stage of my life. And so people took a look at me and said, is this the kind of guy that can get on a board like this and work together with 9 or 8 other individuals from our community to lead this college? And so that is how I got elected. I didn't hardly spend any money. It's just, I guess it was based on my life up to that point. I had a board member about a month ago who has served longer than myself, over 30 years, say this board right now is the most cohesive and productive board as far as Lee College Board that we have ever been in our entire history and her history of being on the board. And as chairman, I took that as a compliment because I think I've worked very hard for the last 2 years to foster that type of an environment, to have a greater understanding of what our responsibilities are and how we work together, and to build that type of unity. It's very important as a board member that we work together with one another. In fact, it's crucial. And if we can't work together, if we can't sit down and have civil conversations and come to a conclusion, this board will not function. And if somebody, is tempered to do that, that's great. That's a good board member. If people are not tempered to do that and they have an agenda of their own and they cannot meld that with the other 8 members of the board that they're serving on, in this case, Lee College Board, it's going to be a difficult road. And it's going to be difficult for the college. It causes all types of instability from the president on down. And so it's very important that board members be able to work together. I think that I have done that for 19 years, and I'd like another 6 years to complete some of the tasks. I think there's a lot of blue sky in front of us, a lot of things we've been working on for the last number of years, and we're at that point to begin to implement them and move forward. We got a great president to help us accomplish that, and I'm excited about the future.
Thank you, Regent Hall. Regent Himsel?
Thank you, Bill. In my opinion, Lee College is the most important asset in Baytown. I've been fortunate to serve this institution for, like Mark said, almost 19 years. I was elected because of my community service, my financial and facilities backgrounds, and my history with Lee College. I take the position of a regent very serious, learning all I can about the roles and responsibilities of a board member. We've had year after year of training. The college has provided us the opportunity to attend the ACCT meetings year over year, and we have a good understanding of good boardsmanship and the best way to run a college. And I think that's valuable, and I would sure hate for any of that to go to waste. We have overcome challenging times, and I couldn't be more proud to serve as a regent. We made a good decision hiring our president, who has innovative ideas, and I'm looking forward to seeing where she leads us. I would appreciate your vote as we move Lee College forward. It's been a privilege to serve the past 6 years with Mr. Hall and Mr. Cotton. Their business expertise and this legal expertise these men offer the college is priceless, and it would be very hard to replace either of these men on the board. So I say to the people that are listening, each of you have 3 votes for a Lee College Regent, and I ask you to exercise those 3 votes. I ask you to vote for Mr. Hall, Mr. Cotton, and myself. And I assure you, we will do our best over the next 6 years to make Lee College the best community college in the United States. And I thank you, sir, for your time tonight.
Thank you, Regent Himsel. So just a couple of remarks in closing. First of all, a big thank you to the 4 individuals who participated this evening. I hope that if you see them, get a chance to talk to them, you will commend them for some behavior that you don't find in a lot of people running for office, which is staying within a time limit, staying on point, answering the question. So I want to applaud them for that. I think they deserve some credit, all of them. Second would be, if you did not get your question answered, be sure to submit those, and we will try to provide those in writing to each of the candidates. And hopefully someone here on staff can work with the Baytown Sun to get those requests, those questions to them and the answers to them so that they can be published prior to Election Day, or even while early voting is still going on. And then finally, the last comment I have to all of you who have watched this evening, thank you for your interest and care for Lee College, caring enough to watch this forum, and I hope you care enough to vote. As all of us know, that a very unique free elections, the ability to chart our own future and to have our voice heard. And so I want to encourage any and all of you who have not yet voted. I'm not going to say vote early, vote often, just either vote early or show up on election day, but let your voice be heard. With that, this evening's session is concluded. And once again, thanks to everyone for being so gracious, respectful, and conducting a forum that reflects well on all of us. Thank you so much.